Guys, good Friday morning. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk. This is an insider's guide to real estate life in the pursuit of happiness, presented by the Yes Team Realtors, live across the network, which means we're live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world, and it's great to be with you. Why don't we do this? Judah, how about the studio camera, so we can get an idea of how the set has changed on this great day to be alive in February. Keith Smith, Christopher Eagle, Candice Vanderlyn. Good morning, everybody.
This is awesome.
How are you doing, Keith?
If I was doing any better, it'd be illegal. This is awesome. I thank you so much for doing this. You know, we've been talking about this for a while, and we actually got it. Each one of us are almost 8 feet apart through the magic of Judah, and whatever Judah magic he does, we'll be able to see a split screen. So this is pretty good stuff. And, you know, we brought in a couple of rock stars to talk millennials and the business and how things are moving forward, and then how we can help clients kind of get over, and one of the topics I want to tackle, how we can get over this, get them more confidence. It's okay to put your house on the market, and some tools and tips that we can work on that.
So we'll go ladies first.
Of course.
Candice Vanderlyn, you're live here. Introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, I'm Candice Vanderlinde. I'm the owner of the Buy and Sell CVille Team Realtors with RE/MAX Realty Specialists. Little bit of background, I guess. Husband's a native, Charlottesvillian.
He's the man.
Yes, Smoked Barbecue Kitchen and Tap in Crozet. We owned and operated and started the Carving Board Café, which seems like yesterday, but that was probably 15 years ago or so now. But we met, this year's our 21st year together.
Married or as a couple?
As a couple.
Okay.
We met in
no
culinary
way.
school.
Is that true?
You're only like
Yeah.
21.
No,
Yeah.
stop. 21 years?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
And we came back here to Charlottesville to make this our home about 19 years ago. So
Cool.
I've been here.
Where'd you come from?
So I was born in Pennsylvania, grew up around the D.C. area, so Nova, D.C., Fredericksburg.
Sure.
It has changed a lot.
Sure.
In the last, I won't say how old I am, but more than
You're a
21
millennial
years.
so in my book, so we're good.
Yeah, I had no idea you've been together 21 years. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That is so cool. How about this man? One of the sharpest dressed
at that
realtors
tie.
in the game, Christopher Eagle.
Hey, I try, man, every day. I try.
Give us an intro to Christopher Eagle.
So, product of Charlottesville. I'm born and raised here. I get to say I was born in the old Martha Jefferson Hospital now. It's not there anymore. And, I don't, products of Albemarle County, Stone Robinson, Burley, Monticello. I left, went up to Ohio for college, came back. I tried to leave Charlottesville, and then it sucked me back in, so I'm here. I don't think I'm leaving anytime soon. I just got married back in the fall, so that's probably the biggest thing. My wife is 10 times greater than I am, a whole lot more beautiful, and I am definitely thankful that she's on my side. So that's the biggest thing on my end, I think.
You have a degree in photography, don't you?
I do, yes.
Talk about that for a second.
So when I was at Monticello, shout out to Rob Garland. That dude is he's freaking awesome. Love Rob to death. He actually shot my wedding back in October. So I learned photography from Rob and sort of fell in love with it. So back when I was in high school, that was the thing that I wanted to go after, was to pursue photography. So I actually I got a partial scholarship from Ohio University for photography. So I went up there, did my 4 years, and then, long story short, different things, different stuff shook out, and then I came back to Charlottesville and sort of fell into real estate a few years later.
I think you were looking for a little warmer weather.
Yeah, it was cold up there, man.
Oh, yeah. I think you were looking for a little warmer.
Kelly Lewis, hello. Welcome to the broadcast. Jonas Smith, agents in Richmond watching. A lot of folks in Crozet watching. We're getting the other side of the mountain tuning in. I think that's a result of Tuesday's show.
If it's a result of Tuesdays,
Yeah.
and actually a result of Tuesdays, I'm going to be on the other side of the mountain around 3:30 taking a look at some property with the folks that were on Tuesday. So I'm excited about it.
I love it. How about Candice, a state of the union for the market in general? And same question to you, Christopher. And then maybe after that, we dig into the details.
Sure.
What do you think? Broad strokes for the market now?
I'd say without sounding cliche, low inventory. But ultimately, I love the fact, a lot of people, I would say, have tension or interest in knowing what is going to happen. Are there going to be a bunch of foreclosures? Are there going to be, what's the repercussions of the economy after COVID? And everything I've seen, thankfully, has been stating, like you said, like Keith had mentioned it as well, if people are underwater, their home has gained equity. And there are buyers out there and there's low inventory. So ultimately, challenging for buyers to find a property. I see that buyers are a little bit more nitpicky with what they want, but also when they see what they want, it's been very fast, very competitive, and you really need to have a great realtor representing you to assist you through all of the emotional, financial, stressful aspects of looking for and finding and negotiating through a contract. Sellers, same thing. A lot of sellers out there that were interested in moving or doing something last year, where do we go? What do we do? Am I going to sell and then have nowhere to go? So there's a lot of emotion and feeling, and at least in my perspective, I like to be the voice of tangible, which is my word of the day, maybe, word of the year. So all of the real life aspects of what is happening now? What is the next step? Where are we going to go from here? Of course, it's emotional, and behind the scenes, I'm probably ripping my hair out and very stressed. But when I talk with my clients, and when any good realtor works with someone, they need to be that voice of education and the resource to the source of what are we going to do, here are your options, having a great lender partner involved, having a great closing coordinator, inspectors. So it really, I love what we do. I love being a realtor and helping people, and really for people to be able to have, in the Charlottesville and surrounding area, we have so many great realtors and such a participatory realtor association. And I love working with Keith and Yona and all the different agents that you tend to have on here. So I think in general, the state of the union is buyers, get yourself a good realtor. Sellers, don't think that it's a for sale by owner type of market, because once you have visits and views and showings, there's a lot that happens, and you need to focus on what you do on the day-to-day and have your realtor focus on what they do on the day-to-day. So in general, give a big shout out to your realtor, whoever they may be. If you don't have one, give me a call, of course.
I love it, Candice.
Do that.
I was waiting for who the first to do that was. I knew it was coming. She got it.
It's all because you let her go first. That's why I didn't get it out. I mean,
he would have done it. I know he would have done it.
Well, then he'll probably just add, you want to hire the best first.
Yeah.
Right.
And it would start with a woo.
But you know what I heard? You love what you do and you never worked a day in your life.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
We love what we do. Hire a trusted advisor, whoever that trusted advisor might be. And I love that. I wrote that down. I love that tangible. We started in the beginning of this year about a word of the year, and that's a word that didn't pop up. So I appreciate that. That's really good. And Mrs. Smith has always taught me, be the source of the source.
Yeah.
So.
Neil Williamson watching the broadcast. We love you, Neil.
Wait, Neil, we got extra seats. Come on.
Yeah, Crozet Gazette. Maybe your influence watching the broadcast right now. We got the Crozet Gazette tuned in. Christopher Eagle, how about your State of the Union for the market?
honestly, I don't know that I can say anything else. I feel like Candice smacked that right on the top of the head, man. You know, if I could add to it, you know, just give me a call. I'll give you a woo.
So we'll take that and make it a sizzle reel. Cut out everything other than that last few seconds, and then we'll use it.
The inventory issue is clearly a concern. We have interest rates potentially creeping up, which we talked about before the show. We have people coming in, Candice, from outside the area to Waynesboro, to Charlottesville, in record numbers. Keith, what do you think here? Where are we going? What's Q2 going to look like? What's Q3, Q4 going to look like?
So, so from my perspective, I think it's more of what everybody's been saying. It's exactly the same. I think inventory is going to start increasing. You're going to start seeing, I think, if these interest rates go up a little bit, we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show, what impacts that actually is going to have on the buyer. But for every half a point that goes up, it runs you about $80 to $100 on a $300,000 house per month. So eventually, that interest rate climbing is just going to take a little bit of an impact on it, and it probably loosen the inventory up a little bit. But what I kind of wanted to start off with, since we have two young and dynamic agents here, is to talk about the millennial side of it. And I had to do a cheat sheet because I had to say where I fit. And it wasn't in the millennial side of it.
What are you, by the way?
What am I?
Yeah.
You after how many?
Do we know?
He's a baby boomer.
Is it baby boomer?
I am, yeah.
Baby boomer? Gotcha.
Which one, though? It's broken into two.
Right.
Oh, let me look at your chart here.
Christopher Eagle.
Good brown-nosing, Mr. Eagle. I'm the younger boomer. That's between 1955 and 1964. So I'm kind of towards the tail end of that, but I'm well within that. But it's interesting because this is part of the NAR. They do this every year, the generational report, and they started breaking for the first time in 2020 boomers into two parts and millennials into two parts. Mm-hmm. So there's an older millennial, which is 1980 to 89, and then the younger from 90 to 98. But what I really wanted to talk about last year, of all the buyers, 38% of them were millennials, fit into either one of those two categories. And I think since Candice is sitting a little closer to me, if you don't mind, Mr. Eagle, how are you? Are you seeing a lot of millennials of your clients? And if you are, how you're interacting with them? Are you doing that a little different than somebody my age? And maybe just a little bit of how you're helping millennials achieve this goal, this dream of ownership. And that's going to be your question, so if you can
we'll
just
recap.
listen. And
so that is a great question. And I have always been what I would say an old soul. I tend to, even as a child, I was really attracted to, instead of my peers, I was hanging out with the teachers. I really have, some of my best friends are well past the baby boomer years. So I do tend to see and live life based on an older generation. So whenever I work with millennials or younger people, I really put myself in an older category to be able to be sympathetic and empathetic, but also to be able to be a voice of education, understanding. I left home at 17 years old. Really, I've been working full-time, helping support myself, my family, and be really responsible from a very young age before I left home. So really jumping into work, jumping into industry, and taking my younger years as a very responsible individual to then build my investment property wealth, my personal property wealth, and to learn and educate myself on business and all of these aspects of life. I feel like now I really can be a source of comfort for millennials because they look at me different than I look at me, and I always tell people I'm 72 when they ask my age, but that's maybe just where I fit in.
Well, I'm dyslexic, so I got you backwards.
Yeah. But it is nice that, growing up in the technology boom and being an older millennial, it was interesting. I saw some stats, and I will get back around to your question, but the life pattern of skills happening later in millennials is the thing. And
explain that.
So, and just a plug for Simon Sinek, I met him years ago at a conference, and it was life-changing. He talks about the millennial question and the 4 characteristics of millennials. But people can go and check that out later. So the life skills happening later, workforce starts at 19 versus 17 from 20 years ago. Children and marriage, 29 versus 31 now. Home ownership was 26 before, now it's 34. My sister-in-law is younger than me, and she, her generation even, and her peers have been getting married and having children later than even, I feel I'm a little bit late because I did my career first. But seeing millennials now, there is more debt, but there's also our parents, the baby boomer generation really afforded the opportunity, and with huge elephant in any room, mental health awareness. So the baby boomer generation really afforded the millennial generation the ability to feel, the ability to seek out enjoyment versus just
Grinding.
get a job 9 to 5,
Yeah.
do this forever, retire, you'll be taken care of. It's no, do you want to travel? Do you want to see the world? Do you want to have an education? Do you want to take your college funds
totally
and
true.
do something else?
Yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah, so so being able to relate in a way, like that's not the way I grew up, but being educated very early in a very strong, my father-in-law, who should be watching, Craig Vanderlinde, was a self-made individual. He and his brothers, all local Charlottesvillians, and they built their business. They work hard. He always, again, I've known him for 21 years now, business is business, personal is personal, and really take care of your business. One of the great things that he has said also and instilled in me is that achieving success, a lot of people can do that. Maintaining success is the challenge. So being true to yourself and being able to work with people, educate them appropriately to make their own decisions is the way I look at millennials, because they are educated, they do love technology, for better or worse, but also being old enough to know when technology doesn't work the way you want it to, well, let's change things up. Let's look at the tangible aspects of where we are and what we need to do.
So I'm going to pivot a little bit to Christopher on
Yeah.
that, because it made me think a little bit about it. Because the way, and since I don't really know how old you are, but let's classify you as a younger millennial.
I just turned 28 the other day, so there you go.
There you go, that's over with. But I have found, and just to play off a little bit what Candice is saying, I have found, maybe because I'm a younger boomer, they kind of talk to me a little bit differently. But I found what happens is millennials tend to put this thing down kind of quickly, and then they reach out to you and they say, help me guide me through this process. And we've had this conversation before. The most important character in a story is typically the guide. You think of Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. But you're clearly in that millennial bucket. So other millennials, right? That's your friends. Mm-hmm. So what are they talking about the real estate market? What are they communicating with you? And then how can we, or us as agents, help communicate better with them? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think to your first point, you're exactly right, where millennials have basically everything at your fingertips, what you need to do for research-wise. But there's a certain point that Google and YouTube and whatever else you're using for your resources get to without you finally going, okay, I understand it, but I don't know what's going to happen next. So I actually just recently had a guy, he reached out the other day, we grabbed coffee the other day, talked about the whole home buying process, and he was like, I'm a huge researcher, I researched everything, so he understood he's probably going to look at a VA loan and closing costs. But after that, it was like, well, what do I do? It's like, well, all right, So I walked him through the process and we talked about the whole thing. And you're exactly right. I think most millennials that are trying to make the step to buying are doing research beforehand, but then after that they're going, I need to talk to somebody because I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do.
So they need a trusted advisor, and that's a word that we use all the time over here on the show, and I know Jerry does all the time, is a trusted advisor. But I guess what the point I was trying to get at is when you, and I guess you just kind of explained it a little bit, when you're having a cup of coffee, I'm a millennial, just imagine, try to use your imagination. Right? How are you really going to walk me through that? Give me the details of it that, hey, I've just fit this, and so where do I go next? next? What's my next step?
Mm-hmm. Well, usually I'll talk to them about the next step is really it's just it's figuring out your finances and getting you in touch with a lender. Because from our standpoint as realtors, I can't benefit you or help you if I don't know what you can afford and what you feel comfortable with for your monthly payment. So I need to get you to a trusted local lender to talk about all that stuff. And usually what I say is on that financial lending side, they can answer all of your questions. I can answer some, but I'm not the math dude. I don't punch those in.
But I mean, Jerry always talks to me about this, about the confidence level, right? So how do you increase the confidence level of a millennial, right? Because let's face it, COVID has affected us.
I think how you increase the confidence level of at least my friends who I'm talking about is the following. You have to educate the marketplace that you don't need 20% down anymore.
Yeah.
Because everybody has this misconception. I think it maybe came from our parents that you have to have 20% down for every transaction. And even though we're getting it out there that you don't, it's still out there. And 20% down in the Charlottesville and Central Virginia market, we're talking like $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 here. And for a millennial and a first-time home buyer, they're not going to have that a lot. You know, I don't want to broad stroke everybody, but a lot of them won't.
Well, the national average is 7% for first-time home buyers,
Yeah.
so it's not even close. And we all know this, that...
that would uptick consumer confidence. Another thing that would uptick consumer confidence is what you said in your email, and we all are having to address, is everyone's asking the question, where the hell am I going to move to?
Yeah.
Great chemistry's working.
Yeah.
Great segue.
Yeah.
So I know how I do that. And,
Right.
and I'm going to start with Christopher first, right? Because we started with you first. So how do you increase in your opinion, how do you increase the confidence of the seller to put their house on the market? Because as we said, the main question is, where the heck am I going to go?
Yeah.
So how can you convince me? I'm Yona. I'm going to get myself into trouble. Keith and Yona Smith are selling our house. We've just called. You're going to tag Yona, aren't you?
She's watching. She watches every show.
Well, there's an internal dispute going on between Mr. and Mrs. Smith. She wants to move. I want to stay. But let's assume we've both decided that we are younger boomers. How are you going to help me make this decision that I want to put this house on the market? Is that a good question?
That's a great question. And Candice has got a ton of questions coming in already for her.
Cool.
Dharma Patel giving her props. But Christopher Eagle has got to get this. You're getting a lot of props over here, Candice.
Oh, man. You should start with her, man. This is a hard question.
You got this, homie. You got this,
Well, I
homie.
think what I've talked to a lot of people about is the fact that you almost need to strike while the iron's hot. We don't know what the market's going to do. We have that prediction that it's sort of going to stay this way, but in one regard, if you really are looking at selling, I would say get it on the market and do it now. I mean, it's unreal what's happening with buyers and the amount of showings and offers that come in. A big thing that I like to do with people is I try to figure out what their goals are.
Sure.
So, are you planning on staying in Charlottesville or are you going someplace else? If you're moving out of Charlottesville, then my main goal is to get your house sold.
There you go.
If you're planning on staying in Charlottesville, then the next question is,
Timeline.
yeah, what's your timeline, and then where are we at? Can you afford to balance two houses at once?
Sure.
Can we go looking for houses for you to buy the next one?
How many
and
can do
then-
that? That you're encountering? And basically, he's saying carrying two mortgages. That's what he's saying.
That's exactly right.
Well,
Yeah.
either you can carry two mortgages, so your debt-to-income ratio is okay.
That's the real issue there, the debt-to-income ratio.
Yeah.
You can maybe be able to financially do it,
Yeah.
but the debt-to-income ratio.
You're saying the lender won't let it happen.
That's exactly
No,
right.
they won't. Yeah, because you got to be in that specific percentile of your debt to income. And the only thing, and this is a super small percentage, I would say, is you own your house outright. So then you can go searching for the next one.
You have millennials that own their house outright that you guys come across?
Oh, I don't know millennials. I'm saying
you're
more
saying,
people,
like
Keith's age,
Yeah,
you know.
baby boomers. Okay. Gotcha.
Like my
Did I just get cold?
Yeah, no.
yeah,
but-
just a bit.
yeah.
Like my parents are a great example, right? They bought the house in 1993, and they've been in it the entire time, and they finally paid off the mortgage like last year,
That's
2019 or something. So they own it outright. So for their aspect of looking for a new house, it's a lot easier. But
So what you just articulated and
Nice
spelled out very well, this app is never going to do that, right? This app
Oh,
is
yeah.
not going to sit down and have that tell me what's going on in your life and how can we help you?
Yeah.
Right. That kind of thing. So I know you got some questions.
We do.
But after that, I want to tackle this possession by seller agreement.
Kelly Lewis says, great question from Keith Smith.
Uh-oh.
You have a lot coming in. Angie Fetty Shabanov.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Angie, where's Angie watching? Do you know?
She is in the Northern Virginia area.
She said, well done, Candice.
Aw.
Well done, Candice. Anna Cologne. She says, Candice, what advice would you give for a millennial trying to get their foot in the door as a real estate investor?
Ooh, great question.
You have investment property. I have some investment property.
Yes.
I'm curious of your path to investment property.
Yes, that's a great question, Anna. Anna Pola Colon Antigua. She has been with me for a number of years. I've known her for a long time. She's a great person. She is bilingual as well, and she helps a tremendous amount of people in all aspects of life. But anyway, so investment. So that's a great question. Just like Chris was saying, talking to my clients and talking to individuals and finding out, okay, what are your goals? Because everybody's different, right? With millennials, because life events are happening a little bit later in time, it's okay if you want to be an investor, where do you go? My personal take on what I own as investment properties are condos.
Was your first condo that you
contained.
lived in, did it turn into the investment property?
Yes.
That's what I did.
And
Yeah.
utilizing the investment, so having smaller personal needs, being okay not having the big fancy schmancy house, and being able to owner occupy to get in the door. Once you get your foot in the door, you get a couple years down the line, you use that equity to then now your money is making you money. Your first property that you're living in will now afford you can either sell it or keep it as an investment, and the banks are going to go, oh wait, you've been making your loan payments appropriately and on time. We want you to buy something else. We want you to get another loan. So keep this, get it rented, buy the next place. How you do that laterally and continue to buy investments, go from an investment property to a larger single-family home. Maybe life change has happened. Sure. You're married. You have kids now. But the going back to the millennials buying and what they want, and segueing this into what sellers are doing now. Millennials are the ones that are able to have low down payments. They're able to take potentially what their family may be able to assist with if they've been living with family or not having to pay rent during their college years and that. Maybe they've been able to save some extra money. But when a seller, let's say not Keith and Yona, but a seller that is looking to downsize or get out of a home that they've owned for 30 years or so, the millennials are going to be buying those homes. The new construction growth in our area that now past COVID, things are opening up. I loved Jody the other day about Augusta. That was an amazing show. I really got inspired by her. But the amount of construction and new development that's happening that's in that over $500,000 price point, it's also smaller floor plans, more segmented floor plans, multi-generational living. And if it's the baby boomers or older generations that are moving into those, well, now the house you sell is going to the millennials. Well, the millennials want it to be economic, new windows, solar panel opportunities. Open, yeah. Open with a little office or a shed or a she shed or whatever you want to call it, unfinished basement. So really for a home seller in this market, looking at the demographic and the interests of what your home needs to be in order to be competitive in the market, in order to sell it to the demographics that are going to buy so that you can move forward to wherever you're going, it's really important. So ultimately, as an investor opportunity, if you are looking at that, instead of, again, to each their own. If a goal for an individual is to say, in the next 5 years, I want to have 3 investment properties. Okay, great. Let's look realistically, tangibly at what your options are.
There's
and
your
if
word.
it's well maintained,
Love it.
if it's well maintained, easy to maintain, lower cost to maintain, those are good indicators that an individual will be able to maintain it. With less.
So to answer the
hassle.
question a little more direct, the 2 paths that you've taken, I've taken a long time ago when I was a millennial, whatever that means, when I was at that age. But that's I read a quote actually this morning, and we didn't even talk about this. Somewhere around 8 out of 10 millennials nowadays are actually holding on to their properties, turning them into investment properties, and then, as you said, they're moving up and they're doing that, and if you are really thinking about doing that, ownership is the best way to generate this type of wealth. Now, if you happen to have the cash, that's a different story. But most people don't, and this is the opportunity to go ahead and do that and move forward. Would you ever consider the personal home you have right now, renting it out and then buying something else and keeping that as investment property?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's your plan, right?
I mean, that's
your plan.
I was
talked
kinda
to my
walking
wife
into
all
it.
the way about it, and it's so I mean that's my future goals down the line is to find the house that may not be the prettiest, and I can put some work into it to build the equity as well.
Sure.
But that conversation is actually a piece that I talk to a lot of millennials and a few of the. Is it Gen Z that's after millennial?
Gen Z, yeah.
So there's a couple of them that are slowly starting to buy too, depending on where they're in life. And that's the thing that I talk to them about. As I say, your first property is not going to be your final destination.
There you go.
It's not your dream home. Either you're single, you're dating, you're engaged, you just got married, maybe you have a kid. Like this is not your 4-bedroom, 3,000 square foot house that you're dreaming of. So invest in this right now, live in it for 3-5 years. Call me when you have your next kid or you get 7 more dogs or you want to live someplace else. You've built the equity into it. So you have 2 options. You sell it or you can turn this into your first investment property if possible, and we find you a renter and then we move you to the next house that makes sense.
So I think what's before us right now between interest rates, the inventory is the struggle, so you're going to have to do your drive till you qualify kind of thing. That's just the way that's going to go, unfortunately. But, with the interest rates the way they are and the programs that are available and anyway, so if you go out to like some of the rural counties and you use a USDA product, that's zero money down. That's the same as a VA. I mean, you can get into a home literally with $0 down, build some equity pretty darn quickly, and then when your life changes happen, you keep it as a rental. The funny thing is, as you were discussing this, the owner and I are in the opposite place, right? We are in this 3,000 square foot plus house, right? We are really, and I joke around. We joke around for the sake of a talk show, but we're looking to downsize, right?
You should.
Yeah, we're looking to downsize.
I know a good realtor, so I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm right here. I did want to mention too. It's come up a few times. Another bit of information that I think consumer confidence really should be encouraged by is the education that the individual that is borrowing the money for a loan has to qualify for the loan product, but also the property itself has to qualify for that. Because especially right now, there are so many people who are looking at first-time home ownership, mostly millennials, but not to say put that in that category, but most people looking for first-time home ownership go, oh, well, I know how to do the cosmetic stuff. I want a fixer-upper, and I want a USDA loan. That's probably not going to happen. So the misconception of, I have this great loan product, I qualify for this loan product, I qualify for this price point, I want to fix it up, I don't care what it looks like. If
the bank's going to go, nope.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
So really educating people on the property.
Right there.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, HGTV?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Totally.
Dude, that's brutal.
In my day, that was Bob Vila. So if anybody knows who Bob Vila is.
Bob Vila, man.
I used with the beard and the work belt. Was he the Home Depot spokesman or
No.
Ace Hardware?
No. That was PBS. That was like the original Bob Vila's This Old House. So I'm dating myself a little bit. I used to actually keep 2 change orders, one for $1,000 and one for $10,000 when I was building houses. And every time somebody mentioned, hey, Bob Vila does it this way, I'd slide a change order across the table and say, here you go. Or get Bob Vila to build your house. But, but you're 100% right. And one of the great things I'm so excited about this ability to have 4 of us here, we're going to bring some appraisers in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had something, and I'll toss this out to the 2 pros here. The owner and I had something happen to us last week that I've never had happen to me, and it's kind of made us a deal go a little sideways, but we fixed it. In a regular non-VA appraisal, there was repair requirements in it on a conventional loan. I have not seen that up until now, and it wasn't a big item, and it was handled at the home inspection, so it really wasn't a big deal. But we're starting to see the appraisers, I think, start changing their criteria, and it's actually going to make it harder to go ahead and get from point A. It's going to be a reason why you need Christopher Eagle. I have to give him a shout out. Christopher, he's sitting right there. I just got to do it. Christopher Eagle, to go from, hey, I found something on Zillow, to navigate this minefield to close.
Can I get the take of you guys on a couple listings that I found intriguing on the market?
Yeah.
And I'm putting you guys on the spot here.
You are, because technically we're not supposed to talk about
Well,
that.
can we talk in general terms?
We can talk in general terms.
Okay. So you guys saw the listing on Knoll Street in Fifeville that we were talking about, the 675
Yeah.
under contract in
Karen.
less than 4 days. Okay. So this one, fresh to the market. I'm going to put it up here on the screen here in a second. Judah, if you could put 806 on screen, 806 Blenheim Avenue. It's going to come on screen here in a matter of moments, guys. Look at this one. And this is on screen. Everyone's looking at it as well. 329,900 ask. You know what the price per square foot is for this? $453 a square foot. This is 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, 728 square feet total.
Well, we'll find out next week how it does.
I think this is going to go under contract in 3 days. We're in a marketplace where $453 a square foot? I mean, anybody want to take a stab at this or offer some commentary?
Well, but that's why we brought in Jody and everybody and Michael to talk about the other side of the mountain. So technically, we're licensed. We're not really supposed to be talking too much about this.
Okay.
We're going to violate some ethics.
Gotcha. Okay.
Ethics
Okay.
stuff. So
how about in general terms that homes under 750 square feet?
that we can do.
Under 750 square feet at 453 a square foot.
That we can do. So you're 100% right. I mean, but this is the reason why we brought in the folks from the other side of the mountain to take a look at what was going on over there as far as cheaper square footage and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't know what my colleagues think to the right of me here, but I suspect this time next week we'll be having a conversation that went pending.
I think 100%. What do you guys think?
I would suggest that's why appraisals are getting more tricky.
Yeah.
Being able to accommodate the
Justify
that
the price.
The materials used. Again, is it what are the economic values? Did they put in new insulation? Did they put in new windows? Did they put in solar panels? Did they put hardy plank and other materials that are rigid and more
custom?
stable?
Yeah.
Right. Is it what are the factors that an appraiser is going to look at? Because a buyer might want to pay, I always tell people, if your home is listed at $325,000 and a buyer wants to pay $2 million and they need a loan, well, good whoop, that's not going to happen. So let's price things appropriately for what we can get an appraiser to agree upon. And that's why I think appraisers really have a harder job, and it's going to be great when you get them in here.
Rachel Burns, welcome to the broadcast.
Hey, Rachel. But let's talk about this interest rate issue, because that's going to impact that market, right?
Yeah.
So a 300,000, just a half a point jump from 2.81 to 3.31% on a $300,000 mortgage jumps it up to $82 a month. That's just a half a point.
So we're talking roughly an extra $1,100 a year.
$984 a year.
Yeah.
$29,500. That's just principal and interest. That's not taxes and insurance and HOA or whatever that might be. So I think as the interest rates start climbing,
Purchasing power diminishes, and then price point should drop.
or stabilize.
Yeah. Because, and this is something interesting I learned from you, maybe we throw this to you, Christopher, is you would think a layman, you guys are the experts, I'm the amateur, from an amateur perspective, you would think the agents would love houses selling at obscene prices, top dollar, off the church. But you guys, it's not. It's the opposite.
No.
Can you explain why?
Well, I think the
Great question.
for me, the first part is, my goal at the end of the day is, this is what I do for a living, so I do want to make my paycheck, but my number one goal is for the people that I help to be able to afford what they buy. And if we start outpricing the market and the prices keep going up, nobody can afford to live here.
Right, that's what's happening.
And
Well, I'll add a little bit to that, if you don't mind me to interrupt you, Christopher.
No one local can afford to live here, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
But we all remember 08, 09, 2010. None of us in this room wants to go there.
Hell no.
Because we know that real estate is second in GDP in the state. So as that starts getting negatively impacts everything. But maybe Candice can tackle
curious
the
of
same.
Candice's take.
I was going to go in a different direction, but that actually brought up the fact too of bringing it back to the beginning of, if I don't sell my home for X, I don't have the money to afford to move anywhere else. A smaller home, as shown, a smaller home that's more appropriate for someone looking to downsize is as much as what maybe they could sell their larger home for in some situations. So I think that some of that price factor is also driven up by the sellers thinking that they could just throw any old price out there. But realistically also, if they don't have a ton of equity built up, where are they going to go for not breaking even but actually saving a few bucks? I agree wholeheartedly. Agents don't want prices just to go haywire. One of the factors, again, looking at millennials or first-time home buyers or home buyers that are looking at lower down payment loans. For example, Jamie Yao, shout out to him with Bank of the James, he and I had a conversation before where an individual went above asking price because there was a bidding war on some property. Went above asking price, and they ended up coming in and saying, look, if it doesn't appraise at the sale price, I will reduce my down payment from 10% to 5% and use those funds to make up the difference.
Sure.
And or we're seeing properties, again, that are going at a price that we say during the contract negotiation period, if it doesn't appraise, the buyer still wants it because there were 9 other waiting out the door.
Yeah,
so
the
it makes it challenging, though, on all aspects.
Yeah, so the difference a little bit on that, Candice, is that we've recently had a couple of buyer clients. We actually won with a lesser number because our argument was, I don't think this is going to appraise at this insane number that is going up. So at the end of the day, what will happen, as you well know, everybody's going to come back to the table and renegotiate. Hey, this is a right number. We knew it. We just actually had a couple of transactions that were about ready to close that, we hit that number right on the appraisal within $1,000 of the appraisal amount because we're all pros and we can pretty much do everything appraisals done. We're just not appraisers. We can get a good pulse of the market. So I think you're going to start seeing a little relaxing of pricing. I think reality is starting to kick in a little bit on it. I think us as pros are guiding our clients through this process. But you're 100% right. If it grows up, we may make a lot of money on like one transaction.
You're just going to have a hell of a lot less transactions.
Yeah, at the long run,
you're going to lose money.
You're going to lose money.
Yeah.
I think, too, like Chris had mentioned before, our job is to help people. Realtors, you will see across the board, we're people pleasers in general. We want to help people. And I know I've got a lot of millennial buyers that are in competition and they're looking to do owner occupancy and they're just not able to compete with investors or people coming from outside of the area that have maybe more funds
Bags
or
of
liquid
money.
funds.
Yeah.
Right. So it does on a people pleasing standpoint too. It's hard when we have these buyers that are ready, willing, able, qualified, super anxious and want to have owner occupancy and they're beat out time and again because they can't go
We just had a
above.
transaction where we beat out a cash deal.
Oh, really? Oh,
Beat
good
out
for
a
you.
cash.
Did you use the letter tactic?
No, and actually.
Oh, that's a good one.
Well, so
Why
that's-
this house means something
So-
to me. Please pick me in this deal.
So that is a subject for a future show. It is now coming down from NAR that letter writing can be interpreted as violating fair housing.
Really?
Well, it depends on how you write it, and I don't really want to get too far into it, but I was nod, wink, wink, told by a certain president of CAR that we should tackle that subject at some particular
Start by
point.
QB.
Have something like QB.
Okay.
But I want to kind of shift the conversation a little bit, and it's in the conversation that Jerry and I have been having all this time with folks on Skype. It's great to have it with somebody in the studio. We've got to loosen up this inventory, and the only way we're going to loosen up this inventory, and if Neil's still watching, is to increase, new construction. As new construction increases, it increases the resales of it. And my light bulb went on talking to Jody. I'm actually looking on the other side of the mountain. She told us on Tuesday it takes like 6 months to get a subdivision, and I didn't believe her.
In Waynesboro.
Yeah.
But she also said something.
No. It does. I went over there and talked to everybody.
There's a lot of green tape there. But she also
Yeah.
said something that was extremely important, that there's not any mass production builders that service that area.
And that might
They're
change
all
soon.
mom and pops.
And that might change
And the
soon.
mom and pops don't have the capital resources to roll out quick development. So while they have the green tape, they don't have the service providers to expedite.
Yeah, but they built 100% right, and that may be changing soon. But they were very forward thinking, and they built the systems in place, the road structure, the infrastructure, and the schools.
It's only going to take till a Ryan or a Stanley come on there and they gain traction, the rest will follow. Don't you think?
Well, Stanley's,
Ryan's there.
already there.
Yeah.
So, want to geek out a little bit.
Yeah, we got more questions
Oh,
coming
no,
in,
okay,
too.
go. Let's do the questions. Let's do the questions.
So let me paint this picture here for you guys here, and then play devil's advocate. Start with you here, Christopher. Jerome Powell this week says interest rates likely going to be stable or where they're at for the next year. We have limited inventory in the market. We have folks from outside the area looking to move here. Who's to say over the course of the next year that the market is going to stabilize, and who's to say that the market's not just going to continue doing what it's doing now for the next 12 months?
So before you answer that question, it just dawned on me. We're using the word stabilize.
Stabilize the organization with City Hall?
No, stabilize the market, right? And I remember when we couldn't find a buyer to save our lives, we were trying to stabilize the market. It just kind of dawned on me that we're using that same word with an opposite market.
Well, it just seems to me that what we have now is going to happen for the next year and change or more.
Without doubt, yeah.
How's this going to be adjusted, fixed, corrected, or are we just going to be continuing to ride this wave?
I think we're just riding the wave.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stabilize is probably the best word. I think at some point we're going to get back to normalcy, maybe is the best way to put it. I mean,
what is the new normal?
I mean, outside of COVID for real estate, I think the new normal is having more houses on the market again, and getting back to that. I'm losing the word in my head, but where there's the inventory
balance.
Yeah, balance is back out to it's on there.
Yeah, we're like in certain marketplaces, low single digits of days on market.
And I know you can't talk about this, and I'm not going to talk about it in specific terms.
Yeah, if you don't
A
mind.
$675,000 home on a street in Fifeville where 2 doors down, the house does not have running water.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it went under market in less than 4 days.
Yep.
Is that not nutso?
I think that would be defining we need to stabilize.
The house 2 doors down has no running water.
Yeah.
Think about that.
We need to stabilize it. But just a quick scenario. In the 2010s, interest rate was a little over 4, 2000 little over 6, 90s little over 8%, 80s, which is when I first bought, over 12, around 13%. In the 70s, it was around 8%. So the median average is somewhere around this 4 to 6%. And so we're like anemically low in that. So, but it's interesting, and Judah, I gave you a couple of slides. We were going to talk about this on the back end, but we can tackle it now. Mortgage rates are really tied to the Treasury, to the T-bill.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not tied to what the Fed is doing. Fed impacts it.
Has a huge influence.
Has a huge influence because they're buying.
Yeah.
Once they stop buying, but typically, and there's 2 slides that I extruded to show. There's usually a spread, a pretty tight spread. It's somewhere about 1.7 point spread between what the T-bill is and mortgage rates, and the T-bill's going up.
Yeah, T-bill's going up.
So if T-bill's going up, mortgage rates are going to go up, but go up to what? Like 3% from 2 point whatever.
How much is that really going to impact purchasing power to the point where it has an impact on pricing of inventory? I don't see that impacting the pricing of inventory because purchasing power goes down because rates go up.
You know, I have to agree with Neil. I really think, and it's hard for me to say this because I'm a recovering developer and builder, but we got to get more new product in the ground. The more new product we get in the ground, it'll take a little pressure off of that. But man, when you're at like single-digit days on market, I mean, Candice, I'll ask this to you because you're a pro. When do you think the balance is days on market? Is it 60 days? Is it 30 days?
That's a
when
good question.
when does it move from that seller's market to the buyer's market? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. What's that number for you?
That's a great question. You know, as a realtor for over a decade now, I live in the 60-day window. I'm always looking 2 months out. It's been statically my recommendation that a closing will occur 45 to 60 days. Now, over 2020, that had increased to 60 to 90 days because everything was halted and slowed down. But now moving forward, you know, things are opening back up. People have become more accustomed to having to go online, use the telephone, you know, call and do things remotely versus physically going to a building to get something accomplished. So, you know, I'd say, you know, 60 days is a great mark in my mind. That just kind of levels the playing field.
Your number of days in mind are the same. I think historically over 35 years of doing this here, that's kind of the 60 days. But you know, if you look, Christopher, you look at what you read from NAR and the national stuff, it's closer to 90 and 120 days, depending on who you talk to. I mean, how do you feel about that? When is this magic time that you think it moves from a seller's market to a buyer's market? And why I think this question is so important, like Charlottesville's like 4 days or 5 days or whatever. So we've got a lot of the picking up to even get close. So what do you think it is, Christopher?
I think it's 60 to 90, you know, just for comparing the city to the outlying counties and all that stuff, depending on stuff. But, I mean, that's a big gap to make up between what's happening right now to get back to where we were.
And I think that plays on what Jerry is saying, that this is going to be this way for quite a while.
I'd say 12, 24 months.
And 12 for sure. I think on the back end of the 24 months, you're going to start seeing maybe equilibrium. Maybe is a better choice of words.
If you are a millennial, a baby boomer, 40s and working, you have a family, and now my brother-in-law, he's got a serious girlfriend. He works for a ratings agency in New York City. They let him know yesterday that he can work from anywhere for the rest of his time while he's on the job.
There you go.
He has not gone to New York City in his $2,200 a month apartment since COVID hit. He's basically paying $2,200 a month to store his clothes. He's living with his girlfriend in Philadelphia, and now they're talking about moving and restarting a life in Connecticut because they want a home with a backyard and consider starting a family. Dude, if employers say to people, you can live anywhere you want, why would you, and not everyone's going to agree with this, but why would you want to live in a $2,200 a month box of an apartment in New York City when you can, for $2,200 a month, what could you get here?
So
own it.
So I sent everyone, at least who was on the show today, the 2020 generational report. But if you look at 2020, 2019, 2018, and Lisa Sturtevant echoed these things. This trend is not exclusive to COVID.
People are going to sprint from Northern Virginia here.
It's been ramping it up, and but it's been going on for quite some time. But
Mike, sorry to interrupt here. Maybe throw this to you. Our neighbors sold a townhome, I think in McLean or Arlington. It was like a $1,200 square foot townhome.
Couple
got
$1 million.
$1 million.
Yeah, sure.
Came down to our neighborhood and bought a home that had 5,000 plus square feet and banked $200,000.
There you go. But that's been, for me, that's been going on since the '87 when I moved down. This is not an uncommon thing. The numbers are just much bigger than they were back in the '80s. But so let's, if you don't mind, we'll geek out, and, unless you got some great questions.
No.
Great questions on the feed.
I wanted to jump in there
Sure,
real quick,
sure.
though, just to plug Charlottesville, too, because I love Charlottesville.
There you go.
We have such a diverse, educated demographic that
Sure.
are attracted to this area for the history, the culture, the arts, the outdoors, all of our parks and recreation, the mountains, Wintergreen being so close, even Harrisonburg and Massanutten, and having all of these really awesome attractions, plus the culture and the history, and we have so much, the healthcare, the education. So our area is so different than Northern Virginia, than other, we're mixed in between DC and Richmond, so we get the big city feel with the homey,
That's awesome.
Mayberry.
So you need to cut that into a sizzle reel, because you just explained exactly
The
why
appeal.
why we're number 2 in the country for retirees to come to the Charlottesville MPO or the area, and number 3 is where I'm going this afternoon to look at property on the other side of the mountain in Waynesboro. So you just, when people ask why, we're just going to take that. You've got a couple
Please
of
do.
sizzle reels coming in here. We're
Yeah,
gonna cut 'em.
absolutely.
We'll just keep that
Yeah.
whole call Candice thing out of it.
Should have my name
Right.
tag.
Yeah, there you go. Put your name there. We'll put you all over it.
Yeah.
So let's kind of pivot. If you got any other questions?
No, keep going. I do, but keep finishing.
But I want to geek out a little bit, because the people that are watching is Keith and Yona Smith. I want to talk about this tool of this possession by seller agreement, right?
Have you done any deals like this?
Oh, I've done a bunch of them like
Yeah.
this.
And recently, or over a extent of time?
I'd say over an extent of time. Recently, I think the last 2 or 3 listings I had, all those sellers left the area, so we weren't worried about them.
Because he's doing it for long periods of time, the possession to seller.
Well, it's on almost every listing transaction we're doing these days.
Yeah, you too? Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So,
Yes, yeah.
So
This is a good idea.
thank you. I'm Mr. and Mrs. Smith are still selling, apparently, and, right? And I'm concerned about where I'm going to go. Talk to me about the seller possession by seller agreement, how that will benefit me, assuming we can negotiate with Christopher, who's the buyer, to agree to this. Tell us how, in your opinion, how that works at a high level.
It is
for
a
us.
fantastic option for anyone looking to sell and for buyers looking to buy. Especially if a buyer is renting currently and they have a little bit of time between when they have to vacate and when the market hits and they find the right place, they want to move, but they don't want to hold both. So in a nutshell, I guess, simultaneous closings aren't really simultaneous.
Multiple people are asking, guys, what does possession by seller mean? So why don't we
So-
start
so-
first
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll jump in on that.
Please
Cool.
do, yeah.
So what it means in layman, in basic terms, is the seller, right, goes ahead and rents back the property. So what'll happen is at closing, Candice buys the property from Keith, and then we enter into this agreement, which in essence is a lease agreement. And I just lease the property I own today. Tomorrow morning, I lease it from Candice for an extended period of time. So, 1 month, 2 months. You've explained before on shows, usually it used to be for a couple of days because I got moving trucks or simultaneous closings
That's how I did
are
it.
not so. But
Yeah.
now it's for the opportunity for Keith and Yona to go find a house. So more houses are coming on the market, right? So it gives us some opportunity. And generally the way it works, and I don't know how you do it, Candice, but generally what it works is if Candice's mortgage is $1,500 a month, that's pretty much what we pay. So we pay to cover Candice's mortgage for 1 month or 2 months or whatever we agree to on that period. Candice was 100% right. 9 times out of 10, this Candice has sold her house, has got cash somewhere for a down payment, and is renting a home, right? And so Candice is good. She's got a house because I can't find any houses, and it ultimately becomes a win-win. Was that a
That's good.
clear explanation.
And also, and just to add to that, Keith and Yona need to sell their house to buy the next home.
That's exactly right.
Well, they can't vacate and have an empty property for the buyer to move in if they need those funds to then buy their next house. So it's this whole domino effect. A big word of advice, because I've done this multiple times as well, when this domino happens, which is really happening a lot right now in this market, when it's out of state, like Chris was saying too. An out-of-state closing that then delays even further, and that one's contingent on this one, contingent on that one.
So you're saying a seller in Indiana has to sell their house in Bloomington before they can buy the house in Crozet, and you need the house in Bloomington to close before the closing in Crozet can happen?
Yep.
That is bananas.
Literally got one going on right now. And
Yeah.
thank you, Candice, for doing this. And you just gave me an idea. We should just have a show about domino deals.
That is
Yes.
That was like my
so-
my third deal in real estate.
Yeah.
It was like 4 of them all stacked together, out of state into here.
Describe that deal.
Oh man, so I had a log house in Fork Union, beautiful house. Anyways, we went under contract. The buyers were from someplace in New York, moving down here to work for State Farm. They had to sell their house in New York in order to buy the house down here. And then my sellers were moving to Williamsburg, so they needed this house to sell to buy the house in Williamsburg. And it was like this, like you're sweating to death for like 3 days to try and get all these closings to happen. And it was like, if something went wrong in New York, then it throws everything off here, which then throws off my sellers that are moving to Williamsburg, and then we're all looking at each other not knowing what to do.
And even better when you cross western states, which are timeline differences. Oh yeah, fun.
That's the one I got going on right now. We've got a.
This round table's great.
And thank you for doing
Yeah,
this.
it's great.
We're selling a house. That buyer is coming from California. Their buyer is coming from Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Right. So all this money has to go all the way through, and it's just that's a great idea. That's a great show because you almost got to draw a diagram and map it out. At least in my brain to understand that. But if the Chicago guy doesn't buy the California guy, and not all that money doesn't move around and comes to here, it ain't going to close. And we have to build in. And that's, again, to go back to what Christopher and I and everybody we've been talking about, this app isn't going to navigate that for you.
Absolutely.
Right? That is talk about a brain damage.
And a plug for realtors.
You got 3 current or car presidents watching you right now.
Good.
Yeah.
They're probably going to yell at me about something.
So a professional full-time realtor is worth more than their weight in gold because dealing with, especially in domino situations or any kind of tense situation, being the voice of reason, having the tangible evidence in front of you to be able to appropriately provide options for the clients, but communication is absolutely critical. It's critical anyway, but especially when you have the Chicago to the California, and then let's say something wonky happens and a handrail needs to be installed because the conventional loan and the appraisal, and that's 3 days before the Chicago closing.
That's what's happening right now.
Yeah, and you know when individuals have an emotional tie, you know they raise their kids in the home, and how can they not like little Johnny's whatever, you know, then the realtor needs to be the one to say,
the voice of reason.
But it even spiders out more than that because these multiple Chicago, California, we over here have to understand what their loan product is like.
Yes.
Right? How are they actually doing
their
it?
Title
Is it a cash
binder
deal? Is there title problems? Is you know, the lender for Jerry who's lending the Chicago thing does, you know, frankly, you know, we talk about this.
Is it a Rocket Mortgage or is it a local guy if something hits the fan?
Thank you for saying it. Thank you for saying it.
Yes.
Right? And then all of a sudden we find out it's Rocket. And
then you're like, oh, crap.
That's the first thing we do. Usually it's oh shit. But
is that really what everybody does when they hear when it's Rocket?
And I suggest to my sellers, whenever we receive an offer, if the qualification letter is not a local lender, of course, anyone can use anyone they wish.
Sure.
But I suggest that my sellers request a local lender also provide qualification because that is not And I tell people too, if I can't put my butt in someone's chair and make them do their job, I'm not guaranteeing they can do their job.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Pre or post COVID, I don't really care. If I can't hound you and you're in California, I'm not flying to California to make you do your job, Mr. Lender, for the seller, for the buyer.
Do you have to do that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I almost went to Alabama one time.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
It was. I was ready to go.
Because the lender was that bad?
Oh, it was horrific.
Yeah.
And the clients had used this lender multiple times. So now I tell people that's great if Uncle Johnny in Chicago is the world's best lender or title closing company. They can be copied in on our emails.
Yeah, right.
They can be your trusted resource, but we're using someone local.
So what happens a lot on this, guys, is with these rocket or these internet things, you're dealing with somebody different every phone call.
Right.
Yes.
It's not.
It's like calling Comcast.
It's not picking up like Scott
Yeah,
Morris, right? You know, Scott Morris, I talked to him at 7:00 this morning. You know, hey, just particular domino deals, he's representing our client, and you know, and that's where it's important to have somebody in that, because he was able to reach out to the California lender side of things and the Chicago side of things, and actually we're working on making magic happen, but it really takes a village to do a transaction. Even a cash deal these days are not that, you know, there are less bumps in the road, but you know.
Well, in wiring funds,
Yeah.
people think a wire happens instantaneously. I've had closings.
Well, that's
on
what I'm dealing with
you know,
right now.
Thursday changed to Friday, changed to, well, now the court's not open
Right.
till Monday, and it's a
Right.
holiday.
I've got a Chicago time zone, a California time zone, then it's got to come back to this, and it's all got to happen in one day.
So the possession by seller, meaning seller needs the money from the sale so they stay in the home for a little while. And then there's the possession by purchaser, where the purchaser needs to get out, the home
exactly
is
right.
vacant, and the seller's going, you know what, let's make a little bit of money per diem. You know, every day we can make a little bit of rent, essentially, because the buyer is selling their home, maybe, or the buyer needs to get out of their lease before the closing is actually occurring, and the home is vacant and able to be occupied. So these tools that realtors have that we can help negotiate through the process for all parties have a win-win. It's incredible.
So
Amanda Spagoni, we are counselors a lot of the time. I remember back in the day, my dad, I love Rick Spagoni, Amanda, you know I do. She says, I remember back in the day, my dad had to drive to Roanoke to take something from the 4th floor to the 8th floor to get a closing to happen.
there you go.
He went to Roanoke to take a piece of
Yeah.
paper from the 4th floor to the 8th floor.
So there's a show subject.
There's Amanda Spagoni saying that. I love Rick Spagoni, Amanda.
What's the craziest thing you needed to do?
To get a deal done.
To get a deal done. That's
That's
a
a
show.
good one.
That's a show topic right into it.
And
so.
with the roundtable, we can do so much. How about I run the gauntlet with the three of you guys to close the show?
Our chemistry's working. We
Yeah.
didn't even talk about this in the pre-production.
Let's run the gauntlet.
Let's do it. You go first.
I got some questions for you
You
guys.
go
Do you
first.
want to be included, or are you going to fire questions?
I'm gonna fire. A,
Okay.
Oh.
You want to fire questions? Why don't you fire questions?
Yeah, you go first. I'll fire a question.
If you had $350,000
Yeah.
and you're trying to buy a home as a first-time home buyer, where are you buying it and why?
Ooh, great
Is
question.
this me personally?
The advice you're giving to the market.
Oh.
Okay, let's say you have a range of 350 to what, 4.25. Let's give them a chance to buy a first-time home anywhere in Central Virginia. You could probably do that for 350 to 4.25, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Even city of Charlottesville, you could.
Yeah.
There's stuff under
City be
4.
pushing it, but you know.
Go up to 450 for the city.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that I would break it down for somebody is just, do you want a yard? Do you not? Do you like the city, suburban, or do you like rural? And from there, I'm gonna take you to a couple different places and kind of, you know, at that price point, I mean, you have a pretty good amount of options. I mean, we can go out to Forest Lakes. We can go, you know, kind of east of Charlottesville a little bit, play around in Troy and Keswick and Louisa and Zions Crossroads, and we can kind of play a little bit out there in Crozet some. Or, you know, I think it just depends on what they're wanting and what they're looking for.
I'm going to pivot off of that, and I'm going to pivot to something a little bit funner.
Ooh.
What's your favorite watering hole?
Oh, gosh.
And then the second follow-up.
Oh, I mean, you got to say smoked, right?
What's your favorite cocktail or adult beverage? Not that you're old enough to drink. I think you
Oh, of
are.
Oh, my God.
I'd say, you know,
I live
really,
in a house full of women. I just know how to manage that.
of course, I guess I should say smoked.
There you go.
Okay, let's
Yeah, there you
say
go.
you can't say smoked.
Yeah.
Come to mind.
Guajiros.
Guajiros is so good.
Guajiros.
Have you been to the
Those
new
guys are. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah, you
like
do.
a million
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. And what are you
those
gonna
guys
drink
are
there?
amazing. Honestly, their Café con Leche
It's legit.
is legit. I
Yeah.
will bypass other local coffee spots.
That spot is
do
legit.
that.
Good for you.
It
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah, Harvey and Danilo and those
Dude,
boys, they're
they
legit.
have energy.
Yeah.
We joke. You
Dude,
gotta
it's
do a
because the
shimmy
guy's
every time you
constantly
go.
slamming those espresso shots. I mean, he
man.
is always jacked in there.
And they're always smart. You know,
And
they
nice.
remind me again, like talking of. I come from you remind me of when I was a kid. Like they've got so much energy and passion and
Did
really,
I say that? I
No,
didn't say
she
that.
said she was a 72-year-old. Isn't that what you said?
Yes,
Yeah, she said
yes.
she's a 72-year-old lady. Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah, they're awesome.
All right, how about this? What is the next Crozet, Virginia? What is the next little micro market that's going to be absolutely red hot?
I feel like we've been hearing Zion's Crossroads for like 15 years now. I mean, I remember Zion's Crossroads as being like 2 gas stations and a Burger King. But,
I remember when it didn't have that.
I feel like Zion's Crossroads is probably, I think it's been itching for that for a very long time. Outside of Zion's Crossroads, I don't know. Maybe Gordonsville, but you'd really.
What about Green? Not yet?
I think you're going to see Nelson ramp up.
Yeah,
Been
Nelson's
ramping up.
getting
I think he's
hot.
going to ramp up. But what do you think, Candice?
Yeah, number one, technology, internet capability. Whoever.
That's why I like Nelson.
Yeah. Well, and again, in Augusta. Really, Augusta, I mean, come on. They're open and willing. Louisa, we did a great, our our Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors.
Good job.
We did this great pre-COVID. Neil, thank you so much. It was amazing. Louisa County, we did all the different surrounding counties to get realtors on a bus and educate on what's happening. So Louisa really has encouraged small business, encouraged business ownership and innovation in residential construction, and really open up, just like Augusta County, in bringing in all of the infrastructure, number one, because you can't have anything if you don't have the infrastructure. Jobs, number two, because you can't really buy a home if you don't have a job. So really opening the municipalities to give the green tape for infrastructure, development opportunities, job growth. I mean, there's your thing. There's your plug.
It's your boy Fitz.
Yeah, fits in Louisa without a doubt.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. My thing, I've been preaching Zion's Crossroads for 141 shows.
From the beginning you have.
But
Who's
it's interesting. I agree with you. I think you have to almost put Augusta, Nelson, and Fluvanna. Nelson may be just on the bottom of that 3 just because it's a little difficult to develop there from a terrain perspective. Yep. But those 3 entities really got the infrastructure down pat, and I think that's where it's going to go. I don't want to dismiss Green, because Green is really growing. They're a little behind the 8 ball on the broadband, and they know that. They've admit that. When you join commission meetings, they'll the folks on the board of supervisors they're trying to play catch up ball. Same thing with the water too. They're playing a little bit of catch up ball with that. So I don't want to dismiss Green, because it's going to be good. But I think you're going to see, that's a great question, I think you're going to see those 3 local jurisdictions really start ramping up. You're going to see Fluvanna in a big way. And I think in the next few months, you're going to start seeing some stuff picking up there.
You guys have made this easy.
This
fun.
was great.
Yeah. We should do this all the time.
Well, we will do it all the time. I think what was great is we got rid of looking at a computer.
Yeah, why would doing it in
is,
person is so much better.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It just totally made my day, guys. Tk you so much. This has
Thank
been a
you.
lot of
You're
fun.
welcome.
Seriously.
Thank you for having
Seriously.
me. Man. Yeah.
Weekend plans, you guys? Chris? Hanging with the beautiful wife?
Making sales.
Making sales, yeah. No, I'm showing a house tomorrow morning in Scottsville.
There you go, making sales.
But, other than that, my wife, she's working all day Saturday, tomorrow, so kind of have half the day to myself. So
So seriously, if you're thinking about selling, two rock stars here.
Well, look at this comment. You guys will appreciate. This is from Kelly Lewis. Kelly, you're what, 27, 26, 27? I think Kelly Lewis. She's fantastic. She says, I was a real estate paralegal for a couple years, and I'm loving this conversation. Super informative for people my age, and you guys answered questions I was asking for myself, all while chuckling and cracking jokes to make the show entertaining. I've watched from start to finish.
Thank you.
Just a fun show.
Kelly, don't forget to call me. I'll give you a woo, and then we'll find you a house. Don't worry.
Okay.
30. She's 30 years old, Kelly.
So you started
You're
off,
aging
but
well,
he kind of finished strong,
He
though.
did,
You gotta admit,
he did.
he finished strong. Gotta
You
admit.
guys both did well. Christopher Eagle, Candice is awesome. Keith Smith is awesome. Judah Wickhauer is the director. Judah, if we go to the studio cam so we can get the back of your head, if you could wave to everybody. I'd love to get your face on there. He does not like to have his face on the camera.
He doesn't like the back of his head on the camera either.
He does not like to be on camera.
But all seriousness, Judah, couldn't do this without you. So thank you very much. And my dear friend Jerry Miller, thank you for all you do, and thank you for putting this together.
I hope you do. Yeah, all the time.
I love this, man. Love
Fantastic,
what we did.
guys. This is Real Talk presented by the Yes Team Realtors. These guys crushed it. If you learn anything from this program, it's get a trusted advisor. You need an agent to make this transaction happen. It's complicated enough. Bring in somebody with experience, whoever it is. It's the perfect way to close. We have to go.
Oh, what time is it?
Yeah, it's 11:32.
Oh, God.
Thank you kindly for joining us on Real Talk. You guys have a good morning. We'll see you on the I Love CVille show in 58 minutes. Take care.
We need to do a clock or something.
I know.
I did
that
not
was a good
realize.
show. Hey, good work.
Holy
Good work.
That
moly.
was awesome.
Seriously.
You guys rock.
Thank you, guys.